We better get going, huh?
Yes, sir.
All right. Meeting order. Stand up for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, here we are. Tuesday the 29th, second reading. We get a roll call, Madam Auditor?
Councilmember Reavis.
Here.
Councilmember Graham.
Here.
Councilmember Justin.
Here.
Councilmember Larson.
Here.
Councilmember Paparad.
Here.
Councilmember Sims.
Present and accounted for.
And Councilmember Whip.
I'm here.
All right, highway. Jump right in.
Looks pretty good.
Evening, Rich.
What's going on?
Collect this over here. All right. Yeah, go ahead. I'll slow it. Got local roads and streets in front of us. It's like the,
Approved.
Second.
there's a cut of $55,000, the number's $910,000. A motion and a second on the floor. Discussion.
Are you taking it all the way down?
Jesus, I've done that, okay, I better. The number's $1,605,000, is a
You were close.
$20,000 deduction. Thank you, Mike, for correcting me again and often. So, the motion and a second on that number?
Yes.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Highway Fund, 1176. Let me find the right number here. Looks like it's down $146,299. The number is $5,636,631. Is that correct?
Motion to approve.
It's a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second on
I've got
the
a
floor.
question.
Discussion.
Right here.
Your work comp is $135,000. Do we have that many claims, or is that, where's the commissioners? I thought they picked up the work comp.
Commissioner?
What are you looking at, Bob?
Work comp,
Workman's comp.
where did I see it? See it? I found it. $135,000 for work comp.
I see it.
It was based on, we had a couple major accidents happen. I'm sure that's what it had to do.
Wait a minute, that's, work comp is injuries on the job.
Right.
Yeah, that's,
When you say accidents,
we had, like, just, we had one with a tree incident that was
Okay.
probably would run that up quite a bit. So, that's just one of them. I'm sure that's what part of it's based on.
I thought that was covered by the commissioner's budget. That's my question. Do you have a separate line item for work comp? Or why do you have a separate line item for work comp?
Vicki, you know the answer to that question?
You have to pay for it.
Can't hear.
Your workers' comp came to $136,000.
You gotta be careful for a few more months, man.
Yep, we're definitely being careful.
I dig it.
Can you hear me?
Well,
Further discussion?
I'm fine. Yeah, that's it.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Overweight vehicles, highway, $50,000. Motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Grant,
Move to approve.
Second.
LR&B match grant, $1 million. Motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Middle Bridge. King Bridge. Looks like it's increased $608,000.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Number's $4,306,767. Hume Bridge.
Quite a bit.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. Increase $608,140, right?
we had a pretty big increase in consultants.
Yes. We have a number of bridges that are under federal contract for construction dollars. Matter of fact, I think we have 10 of them right now. We just recently received 4 awards for about $6 million for construction funding, but one of the agreements to entice NDOT to get that money is we agreed that we would pay for the engineering.
So how many bridges do we figure we'll be redoing next year?
Next year,
Just out of curiosity.
Bridge 62 over the Kankakee River, a major project, should be going off, if not at the end of this year, the beginning of next. And we have probably 2 other bridges that are going to be going next year with federal funding, one on Smoke Road and one on Brummett Road.
Did we already do one over the Kankakee before? Was there?
I thought
Yes.
so, too.
There was one that there was an issue with maybe what the state was doing, and would it be odd to do our bridge when they did their thing? Or am I going back too far?
There was a bit of a conflict with 62 at one time because of the fact that NDOT was doing some work on 231, and there was concern there, but we ended up throwing out the bid for Bridge 62 in March,
Okay,
and we pushed it back to November.
okay. That makes sense. Okay.
Numbers, 4 million, I'm not sure I got a motion in a second,
I'll make that motion.
4,306,000.
Second.
706. Motion and a second on the floor. Further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Plan Commission. Like there's a decrease, that's the number, decrease of $24,500 or $843,113.
Move to approve.
There's a motion
Second.
and a second. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Stormwater. So we got a $92,000 increase, $92,075.
What's our lease payment increase? What are we doing there?
I'm sorry, which line item, Ben?
Looks like lease payments. We went from 0 to 65.
Yeah, that's for the Vector truck.
Vector truck is one.
So last year at budget time, we failed to include that lease payment for the Vector truck. That's a cost share agreement we will have with the highway department, so we're making sure to get it in the budget this year.
Yeah, we were in immediately at the first of the year to get that in, because I forgot it. It was my bad on that.
Gotcha. And then, are we buying more vehicles, for our motor vehicles up? Is that what we're doing, or?
It's replacement of vehicles now.
Okay. I'll make a motion of 3890957.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? I know you got some letters in here about raises. That's for this budget.
We're not doing that.
No, just, you guys want to discuss it tonight, or you want to discuss it later on? That's fine. You just want to kick it off till later?
Yeah.
Motion and second on the floor. Further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Unsafe building,
Motion.
Second.
increased $5,000, $105,000. Motion and second. Discussion.
Can I ask, so how many, at this point, do we have structures identified that we think we're going to be dealing with under the unsafe building
Yes.
laws? So how many do you think we have out there?
I believe we're trying to set up a hearing officer meeting coming up real soon, and we're going back into 6?
I think we have 8 going in that hearing. 8 of those will probably tearing down 4 to 6 of them.
Really?
Yeah, and then we got 2 new cases on there, too, potentially.
Who's our hearing officer?
Our hearing on Andrew Bennett.
Oh, Andrew Bennett. Okay. My questions.
There's a motion and a second, I believe, on the floor for $105,000. Further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Drainage maintenance,
Move to approve.
$900,000.
Second.
Motion, second.
That's not the old ditch funds, is it?
It's the,
Yes, it is.
the old
It's still hanging on?
and subdivision funds.
Because of the fact that they are specific when they go to the particular items, like Crooked Creek has got a large fund, Mike falls in probably.
We're still assessing?
We're not still assessing any
I'm
regulated.
sorry, wait a
subdivisions
minute,
or
wait a
drains.
minute. I can't hear you, Mike.
I'm sorry.
No, take the,
We're not assessing any regulated subdivisions or regulated drains at this
Okay.
point.
so where's this money coming from?
This is the money that's still in the regulated.
Right,
drains.
it's still left over ditch money?
Subdivision account. Yep,
Okay, eventually that's gonna go away?
correct.
As soon as we get projects going on those particular ditches,
Right.
it's very specific on which ditch it has to go
I know.
to.
Okay. I'm done. I'm fine.
Further discussion? Vicki, you all right? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye?
What's your,
Pose same sign.
you look like you're getting ready to say something. You want to jump in on, or, no, we're good, you're just taking it all in? All right, all right.
You want to take that vote again?
We're good. I think it passed.
Okay.
You may take it again?
No, I just wondered if you were all talking about Vicki.
She was just spacing off in here like she needed to jump in, or?
I'm thinking about it.
She was somewhere far away.
All right, where are we at? Stormwater construction fund.
Wow.
Looks like decrease of $8,300,000.
Contractual.
This is the bond fund.
Number is $5 million.
What did you say, Bob?
This is the bond fund.
Oh, okay.
We're getting projects done.
Spending money.
That's right.
Amen.
You
Good.
need a motion?
I do.
Second.
Motion.
Motion second, and a third. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Highway engineering fund.
Move to approve, second it.
Motion a second, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Is that it?
Thanks, guys.
We'll
Thank you.
discuss
Thank
the
you.
other things at a later date. Could be possibly Thursday, not sure.
Doing great.
Let you know.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Bob.
State U 911.
Thanks, Bob.
Whoa. Same number,
Move to approve.
$2,495,386.
Good evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening. The motion on the floor.
Second.
Motion is second. Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you again.
Thank you. EMA. What? It's like there's an increase of $17,168. $317,786 is the number.
Motion.
Motion on the floor.
I'll second it, gets it.
There's a motion and a second for discussion.
Is this for that part-timer we approved earlier?
That would have just been hanging on from that.
The hourly,
Mhm.
you stuck,
Yes, sir.
kept it in there?
Yes, sir.
The hourly approved an additional early on in the
Is that what
pandemic.
it was? That's what it was last year? Just-
Yeah, that was, at the end of the year.
What have we spent out of that hourly this year? that
We have.
Zero.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I know we budgeted, I'm just wondering if we,
Zero?
no. So how are we, the one we approved, how are we paying for it? You said we approved the part-timer.
He never.
We ended up.
You never hired him?
Right,
Oh, okay, okay.
Oh,
yes, sir.
I believe the person he was looking for
Yeah,
wasn't, no longer available, and he just didn't want to spend the money to spend the
That
money.
makes sense.
right.
So is the plan at this point, Lance, to hire someone, or you just want to reserve the right?
I'd like to have it hanging on just in case,
yeah,
you know, if we can, that would be good. The one from last year, though, it was just a temporary part-timer to a certain point, and then there was going to be an evaluation, so.
I don't know if I'm comfortable budgeting on an if.
So I think that was, trying to remember, you wanted a full-time person, right? And
Yeah,
yes.
we really wanted a full-timer, so.
And you, I think you asked for that full-time person last budget session.
We did.
Correct? And
Yes,
we
sir.
denied it last budget session, then we
Yes.
got into the situation this spring, late winter. We said, start with hourly.
Right, but he didn't,
Pandemic.
Said he
but
didn't need 'em.
he didn't fill, he didn't
Never
use
filled
it.
That's correct.
You didn't spend it, right?
We did not spend it. It wasn't that we didn't need it, but the person that we wanted wasn't available anymore. And for me to hire somebody off the street and try to train them in the middle of a pandemic and show results in 2 months with them, I felt like it was gonna be a misuse of your money, and I didn't wanna do that,
Well, where'd the money go?
just, so.
never used it. Oh, you mean it's zero now?
So when we approved him to hire the part-time Vicki, did we appropriate money? Did we transfer money?
It's an additional.
How was he gonna pay for it?
We did an additional, I
It
think.
was
So it's
additional.
additional hourly, so back to my question, so nothing, because when I asked the question before, I was told there's zero in that line item, but that's not true, actually, there was
Right.
$17,000.
Look at the adjusted budget.
Which wasn't used,
Correct.
okay, just to make sure I got
Yes,
that.
sir.
So,
So are you planning on hiring, or,
We would like to, yes. Again,
but you haven't?
we have not, no.
But in the spring, you had to have a part-timer.
We wanted extra help during the pandemic.
Right.
We want a full-timer already, but during the pandemic, it was even worse.
Right.
So we were approved for a part-timer,
But you didn't hire anybody.
correct.
I make a motion to take the $17,000 out. If he needs money next year, come back and see us. I mean, we're budgeting on an if. The fact he hasn't filled it in a pandemic, or whatever you want to call it,
all right, so I'm gonna second that motion, but I'm gonna say this. It's not that I don't think that you should get that person,
Sure.
and if you come back, because you decide that you found the right person, they'll fit right in and you need it, I'll be with you. But-
Okay.
So there's already a motion on the floor to approve the budget, as is, so.
Who made that motion?
Justin and Bob.
Bob.
Sounds like Bob amended his motion.
Okay, I'll amend my motion.
Well, who made the original motion?
They say it with me, but I don't think I did.
Whoever made it. Mike?
I did.
Okay.
Mike, you want to stick with the
Do it
motion,
again?
you want to withdraw it?
I'll withdraw my motion.
I'll make the motion to approve it minus the 17,000 and change.
Motion,
Dan second.
Now, I'm gonna
Second.
still second that
Right.
motion. With the same
Further
caveat.
discussion.
I understand.
none? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. What do we got? EMA,
Yeah, you've got,
District 1 task, where's that at? 1, 2, yes, it says hazardous substance. Hazardous substance, all right, yeah, I skipped one.
Move to approve.
$40,000, numbers the same, motion and second, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. What do we got?
should have LEPC and
Yeah.
District
All right, $18,000, is that right? Is that where we're at?
Yes.
Yes.
Numbers the same.
Mm-hmm.
I'll move to approve that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Did I miss one?
Did you do District 1 and LEPC?
Yeah.
Okay, just making sure. I didn't know if we missed the one.
Did we miss, did we?
Wait a minute.
District
So
one?
long as we grab it on third reading.
Yeah, it's,
There's a District 1. It's
Yeah.
increased $140.
That's the one we already voted on.
No, I didn't think we voted on the District
I
1.
think we passed that.
Pass that one.
And that-
$31,140.
Does it change?
I'll make the motion.
Motion,
$140.
$140 increase.
And that's not out of our money, that's all paid by the other counties that pitch in for it.
The motion to approve.
Okay, I'll second that.
Second, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Sorry for skipping it. Now we're
Okay,
done.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Not even supposed to be here today.
what happened?
Good job.
I couldn't miss it, just couldn't miss the fun. I knew Kevin was coming. Numbers the same, $170,257. Motion. Nobody wants to
I'll
second?
second it to get to the...
Oh, somebody's gonna second.
Did you ever find a party animal chief or whatever?
From the LEPC.
You did? You finally filled it?
Well,
Yeah, I had to skip the one.
surveying manager, I filled
So
that
that's been voted on and
spot.
approved.
Okay.
Party chief,
Party chief, the guy that hands out the balloons.
Yeah, that was a
Huh?
couple years
that
ago.
was a few years ago.
He's been partying ever since.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah.
We'll keep you in mind, Bob.
All right.
Motion and a second, further discussion? None, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Surveyor, ever perpetuating fund.
What's in that
Decrease
now?
7,000.
What's in that fund, that service perpetuation, I'm just curious. The tax perpetuation fund.
$143,776.
Wow. There's a little pot of money.
Yeah, but
But with future obligations,
For what? What's that for?
the
What are we
full-time
on
person
now?
you put on the
So how much
equipment.
goes in there?
Okay, yeah.
All right.
No.
Much less than the recorder.
Yeah, so what's got going in and coming out? I mean, I just want to make sure that we're holding serve here.
Looks like 130 coming in, 123 coming out.
Well, that's to date,
Yeah.
so go back.
So we're doing okay.
Motion
You'll-
to approve.
Yeah, I solved it. And I try to be.
There's a motion to approve on the floor.
Second.
There's a
I
second.
gotta let people go.
I understand.
So what did it bring in, $152,000 last year, so you are budgeting into it.
Okay.
Motion and second on the floor, any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much. I'll see you
Thanks,
next year.
Yep, thank you.
Yeah, maybe.
See you, Kevin.
Hope
You may not see it next year.
Never know.
Who's to say?
And rec, help yourself.
I will.
I always bring extra.
You do.
Hi, Walter.
No increase, $539,875.
Move to approve.
There's a motion.
Second.
Second.
What's good, Walter? How you doing, man?
Doing okay?
Is there a letter in here for something, Walter?
There was, so part of the budget this year is the additional $8,000 in maintenance and repair.
Is that in there?
Requested. Correct, yeah.
Numbers are the same.
Okay.
Well, what are you saying, there's an additional
But
$8,000?
that's not in the actual number. So there has been a request, I've been asked to ask for an additional $8,000. This is part of the conversation regarding the Zona Wildlife Sanctuary.
Oh,
So this is where would you put the money?
where is that?
Well, it was already submitted when everything was going, so he wrote us a letter in here asking for the additional $8,000. Commissioners have stuck $10,000 in their budget, I believe, that's correct, and there's 8 remaining,
Oh,
Yep.
to fund.
So that would be in 36,200 building and structures, repair and maintenance.
Yeah, I'm not quite prepared to vote for that, frankly. You guys can do it.
I am.
Let's hear the story.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
You want-
it's a story.
Sure. Well, the short version
Yes.
is that the conversation that is occurring right now is that the Board of Commissioners are contemplating conveying the property to the Park Board. There was a due diligence that was done that analyzed how much deferred maintenance there was and what the ongoing maintenance would be if we added the property, the 92 acres, to the system. So the number that came up was $18,000. The commissioners have said that they will look at moving $10,000, appropriating that towards the fund, and then I was asked to come to you all and ask for an additional $8 to cover that total cost.
So I've got more questions for the commissioners on that.
So, there is a motion and a second on the floor, so.
To add the 8,000?
No, it was without the 8,000. So,
Right.
Jeff was here, wasn't he?
Pardon?
Is Jeff here?
they might have left.
Scott's gone?
Yeah,
That's very unfortunate.
I want a little more of a history lesson on that, because I've gotten Dick's information, and I think that I'd like to have just a little more time to track that down.
This conveying the land,
Mm-hmm.
how long has this taken?
Months.
Okay, why?
Why? That,
The commissioners have it now, and they're going to convey it to the park department,
That's my understanding, correct.
but don't the commissioners own the parkland too?
They own title to the Zona Wildlife Sanctuary.
No. Sunset Hills Farm, who owns that?
Porter County Board of Parks and Recreation, with
Okay.
the exception of a parcel owned by the Parks Foundation.
Okay, so how hard is it to convey the land from the commissioners to the park?
I think the challenge came from understanding what funds were available.
Forget the funds, I'm talking about conveying the land.
So my answer is that there was question over how much funding was needed, how much funding was available, and that was...
I'm not talking about funding, I'm talking about conveying the land, which is probably directed at him. Why is this so damn hard?
agreed.
I'm just, I mean, this has been going on for months. If the commissioners own it and they want to give it to the park, why is this so hard? Forget the money, about the maintenance. That's a separate discussion.
So my understanding is that The parties were hung up and wanted to wait to determine the financials before they were considering the
So
actual
Bob, the answer
conveyance.
is that they've been, seems like, and that's part of my question that I want to have for the commissioners, and frankly, I don't want to have it tonight, but is there was some discussion and some conversation about the terms of this conveyance.
I'm sorry, Dan, in terms of what?
The conveyance!
What's,
You know, like any transaction, apparently there were some loose ends that they wanted to tie up. I'm not yelling at you, I want to make sure you...
that's fine, I can hear
So, I think there was some discussion, and I have some questions about some of the substance of that discussion, that's all. It's not big money, it's not a huge deal.
Yeah.
I just happen to have a small question in my head that I want to get answered before I vote for it, that's all.
And I'm not trying to avoid the question,
Yeah.
and I don't want to speak for either park board members or the commissioners. There are conversations that I was not privy to.
Okay.
My assertion is that as quickly as we can, convey the property to us, appropriate the dollars so that we can get going if everybody's shaking their head in agreement.
Well, you got 10,000 to start with, right?
Has that been allocated, or?
It has, to my knowledge, it has not been
Okay,
appropriated.
so let's wait till that's,
Well, I think,
But there's a motion on the floor to keep it the way it is. Can we call the question on that?
that money also, wasn't there 14,000 given to the commissioners initially from that fund?
From last year, I thought we,
Yeah, again,
We should have had money in that fund to negotiate whatever we needed to do to get that set up in the park.
I think that there was a cost to get it back up and running, right?
Correct. There was, I
And
was
and maybe
asked,
that's where that money's being
I was
used
asked
for.
to determine two numbers. One was the deferred maintenance, and one was the ongoing maintenance of the project.
So this is budgeting for that ongoing maintenance.
Correct.
Commissioners have committed to using $10,000 of lit money.
We also had a community member donate $25,000 for the ongoing maintenance to that park also, is that not correct?
If I understand what you're referring to, that gift won't be made until their passing.
until what?
Their passing.
So I wasn't privy to the discussions. I wasn't involved in, the hang-ups and the terms that they were working out.
We need a
So
commission.
so all I want to ask is that we hold off on that until we can get a little more clarity on if there's any further hang-ups, any other things we should know about before we vote on that.
There was a specific question, Walter, about whether that park had been designated as park land or whether it was private property. Is that still in question?
It's currently zoned as rural residential.
So there's a motion on the floor. And a
Yes,
second.
I understand that, yes.
Can I call the question,
Well,
Mr.
is
Chairman?
there further discussion?
Call the question, Mr. Chairman.
That actually would cause a vote, but I'll do it anyway, so. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You want to do that?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Well,
You want to do that?
people want to discuss, Dan.
We've been discussing.
Well, I'm gonna let every member have a
Every member
chance.
did chime.
Park operating.
Some of us have a life. You don't, the discussion was over.
Yeah. Park operating, $226,584.
Move approved.
Motion.
Second.
Second. Discussion.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Jeremy,
Yes.
I'm not done yet.
Yep.
Is the reason we can't spend the money is because the park department doesn't own it?
That was one of the sticking points for the park board, is that they were not willing to move forward until it was fully conveyed.
Okay. Do we have a timeline on the conveyance?
I do not, no.
That was a question though, Bob, because they took the funds from that park,
Mm-hmm.
held the funds but didn't maintain the park, so that's kind of
Well, I understand, I'm just really frustrated / confused about why it's so hard.
Well, I think we're at the point in time, I mean, the commissioners will be here Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're not gonna forget about it,
No.
it's just, I don't know, is it a lawyer thing, Dan?
but it's a great question that apparently isn't going to be answered tonight. We don't have the people here that we need to.
The questions that I have, I didn't want to air out, as Bob
Okay.
just said, until I get my answers. That was my point. So,
Okay.
not anything particularly earth-shattering. There's a couple of loose ends I wanted to get answered. Yeah, it could be a lawyer.
I want to be back on Thursday, maybe, if you care to be part of the discussion.
you want to recognize.
Well, one comment I wanna make, is the conveyance being held up by the zoning?
Yeah. Attorney Hollenbeck, yes, if you want to speak to that real fast. I mean, we're not gonna get anything solved tonight.
No, I'm curious about, is that one of the hang-ups?
Evening.
Evening.
I'm not even supposed to be here tonight.
I could only half hear, I'm sorry, what was the question that we need to address?
Is the conveyance being held up by the zoning?
No.
Okay. So we can rezone it after the conveyance?
Eh?
You answering
Is
yes?
that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
If there was concern, I heard some concern about the longevity, the time involved in all this.
Yeah.
From my client's perspective, which is the park board, when the commissioners approached the park board to assume responsibility for the property, the park board's response was, it seems to fit into what our mission and responsibility is, but they wanted a due diligence process completed to determine what financial impact this would have on the park budget.
Okay.
Not an unreasonable thing to do. So Walter was assigned the task of doing that, and we divided it up into what are the deferred maintenance expenses, and then what are going to be the annual operating expenses. And Walter did that. We gave that to the commissioners. There were some discussions back and forth, and not the most recent meeting, but the I don't know if Jeff's still here, but the meeting before that, on Jim Biggs's motion, the commissioners agreed to commit $10,000 a year out of their monies, out of their budget somewhere, to help toward the projected $18,000 a year it's going to cost to maintain and operate it. And they said, go to the county council for the other $8,000.
Did they pass that 10,000? Because
It's in the budget.
Yeah, they passed a motion committing $10,000 a year to help the park board with the operational costs of the property. I can't point to what line item it is in. I don't know enough about their budget. And then with regard to the deferred maintenance, coincidentally, the same figure, $18,000. Our due diligence discovered that in the auditor's account, there's a little under $15,000 that's been accumulated over time. I don't really even know the source of that is available for the zone of property. So Walter put his pencil down a little harder, and we determined that we can do the deferred maintenance for 15 instead of the 18 that we originally thought. So depending on what you do tonight, it's my intention Thursday night at the park board meeting to report back that Walter and I have completed the financial aspect of the due diligence, and we've answered the questions that the park board had about how are we going to pay for this if we're going to take it over. I honestly don't know what other due diligence aspects of this that the park board may want investigated. I can tell you at this point, the financing was the principal one that was a concern for the park board. Can you speak to the timeline when you were notified? I'm sorry? Can you speak to the timeline when you were notified to do the due diligence on that particular property?
I don't know what you mean by notify, that was our decision to do
You
it.
guys were asked, or the commissioners had conveyed that they were going to take the property at some point, right? Or you guys should absorb the property. When did they come to you and say, we'd like to have you guys absorb this property? Was it last month, was it 3 months?
Oh, no, it was longer than that, yeah. I can get you an exact date, I don't know when that.
I think part of the question, or my question at least, so the county owns the property,
The Board of County Commissioners own the property, it was conveyed
which
to
is
them.
essentially the county.
So you would suggest that...
And how long have they owned it?
I still have questions.
Oh, years.
Yes.
I can't attest to that, but it's multi-years they've been involved in it. If I had to give you a time frame,
Well, they voted to dismantle the board that was there, correct?
I can't speak to that. You know, I can't speak to much of anything until my client was approached to consider taking over responsibility for it. I could be off, but 6 months ago.
So just so I understand, okay, so the money that was already in the fund, that 15,000 or whatever it is, right, that was there before, that's going to help take all the fees this next year, so there'll be no increase this year that you're asking for, because you used the 15,000 that was,
I thought you were
is that how I'm understanding this?
We intend to use the 14,009 something.
Right.
Okay? To
Plus,
pay the costs associated with the deferred maintenance that's occurred out there. Walter and I were talking about this today. Depending on weather, we think we can get most of that deferred maintenance done this year. And I talked to Vicki this morning about the fact that that money has never been appropriated. So we're going to have to come back to you, probably at your October 20th meeting, and ask for an additional appropriation, meaning that $15,000. In the interim, we can start getting some bids and looking at what needs to be done, so by the end of the year, we can have the deferred maintenance over with.
Okay.
Then the second $18,000, 10 from the commissioners, and 5 that Walter has asked that you increase his maintenance budget, of 10, or 8, for a total of 18, will be the ongoing annual operational expenses. We've got garbage to pick up, we got things to maintain, we got a bridge that everybody talks about. Were you out there, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know there's some deferred maintenance that has to
Yeah,
be done.
it looks as if the whole place has been neglected
Well,
for an extended period
I
of time.
can't speak to that, all I know is my, sounds like a broken record, Dan. And I don't think it was the least bit unreasonable for the park board to say, you know, number one, we think this is probably in our mission, but we need to get a handle on where it is and what's going on. And
Vicki, or Jeremy, Vicki, is there a line item in the budget for this year, for this?
Okay, I do want to apologize to Dave. Earlier I did misspeak. There is an appropriation.
There
For
is.
the TIF, but I think historically this was the fund that.
so there's a $15,000 appropriation this year to spend that money.
Right, no, there's actually, the appropriation total about 24,000.
Yeah.
Different line items, but the fund only has a balance of 14,000.
So we may not have to come back here for the deferred, okay.
I was going back on the prior.
Well, that's all right.
So.
Okay, so I misspoke, based on what you told me.
So there,
It doesn't sound like we have to come back here to do the deferred maintenance. We've got money appropriated to do that.
But you
Which
can't spend it till it's conveyed to the park department.
Oh, we could, but the park board said that we believe that if we're going to take this over, it should be including the conveyance of the property, and the commissioners agreed.
Okay.
so it sounds like it's there.
Well, the only hesitation I have is Thursday night at the park board meeting, I'm going to tell them, if you appropriate the additional 8, that the financial aspects of of Walter and my due diligence are completed, and we think we can handle this as a park department with the money that's been appropriated. And then I'm going to say, is there anything else in the due diligence category that the park board believes needs to be looked at? They've never mentioned anything. It's always been, can we afford to do this? The one, you know, again, I think there's some concern about exactly what it means to take over the property. This, as I understand it, even in the title, it's an animal sanctuary. What does that mean? I mean, does it mean picnic tables and trails and encouraging people to come out? Or is it allow animals to be out there in an uninhibited type fashion? And that's something the park board's going to have to decide, how that fits in to the master plan of the park department and how we look at how best, and that will be in conjunction with the zonas and other people who have interest in how the property. I'm going to tell you right now, one of the things I worry about is parking. You've been out there.
Yes.
How many cars can park out there?
Yeah, if well, not that many,
Right.
4 or 5.
So, you know, that parking we don't want parking on the county road.
Right.
So parking's going to be a significant constraint as to how the property gets used.
See, what is bothersome to me about this is it's an area that the county has had for many years, the commissioners and that, and it's unfortunate that in the situation that it's in. It seems like I would have liked it to have been maintained better, and it's unfortunate that we're in the position that we're in now, because the land was donated to the county has taken care of it, and now all of a sudden, we're having a lot of difficulty. What I'm hearing tonight, you're saying that you still have, the park board, you still have to define how it's going to fit into the park board's goals.
That's a fair statement.
Sure.
I guess I'd back off, Silly, and say, from a financial perspective, assuming you approve the additional, or adding the 8,000, we're comfortable that we can maintain it and operate it and fund it. My question is, okay, what are we going to do with it in terms of how does that fit into, I'm being facetious, are we going to put softball diamonds on, where does it fit? Obviously, we're not going to do that. But we need to figure out how it fits into our overall mission that we view as the responsibility of being the stewards of parkland in Porter County.
How long do you think that will take, realistically? Because this has been an ongoing problem now for us.
Well, I don't think that debate and decision would limit we're going to go ahead and do the deferred maintenance and get it, quote, open, right?
Correct.
That's not going to inhibit us from doing a deeper dive into what this place means to people and how best to enhance it and how best to utilize it as an asset of the county park system.
Dave, got a question. You had a very passionate group of people that were operating or maintaining that facility for quite a long time, and they were kind of disbanded. Is there any consideration to either bring them back or allow them to kind of be a part of things at all?
Well, Greg, that's one of the issues we have to decide. I mean, to me, this is just Dave Hollenbeck speaking, getting it to the park board is already targeting it. I mean, the commissioners have got, pick a number, 50 other things to be doing. This is the park board's business. And focusing on the 5 people on the park board and their vision, I think, is where we start. But would we seek public input? Absolutely. That's essential if we're going to meet that mission.
So in the meantime, the county, the Board of Commissioners owns the property.
Correct.
And we're going to ultimately transfer it to the Parks Foundation, assuming they accept it.
Hopefully
That's another
expeditiously.
strategic plan.
Right.
And in the meantime, with the proper funding, the Parks Department is going to go out and do the deferred maintenance and get it maintained to a point where we can open it and use it for what it was intended, which from my perspective, it's trail walking, which is pretty simple, a couple of picnic tables, and then there's plenty of wildlife and animals. It shouldn't be that hard or complicated.
Mike, I'm out over my skis on this. We need to listen to others. But if it's a sanctuary, mixing people and animals in a sanctuary,
Okay, we can wordsmith what the use of it is, but I think the idea, intent, and the best use of it is to have trails.
Which there are trails out there.
Right.
They need maintenance.
Leave it as it is, just maintain it in a way that it should be maintained.
In fact, when I was talking to Mr. Gregg about this today, well, he's here, you told me about 30% of the property has trails on it?
It's hard to say. The very northmost part of the property is very wet. You wouldn't put trails there to begin with.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say 20%.
So, are we going to expand trails? That gets back to parking. We're going to have to visit those issues.
I'd be really interested in knowing where this is all going to go. I guess I would. The commissioners made a decision to send them back to us for money. Arguably, there's a couple of terms still lingering out there that I'm not clear on with this transfer. From the park department's side of things, they're still trying to figure out how it fits into the plan and what their ultimate goal will be with it. There's just a few unanswered questions. But
they do have 15,000.
There's money in there now to
start
get in
cleaning
there.
it up.
Well, but again, Dan,
Yes.
my client is concerned not just to do the deferred maintenance and fix it up,
Right.
but in fact, be in a position to quote, operate it. And that's where we need the money the commissioners have given us and what is being proposed tonight to add to our budget.
And I guess from my side of that argument, discussion, which I totally understand what you're saying, Dave, but I guess from my side of it is, before I would vote to commit the money, I guess, which I'm not opposed to, by the way, I think it's a great idea, I would want to know exactly what the parks are planning to do with it. What's the plan?
Well, I guess as to the 18 a year, it's to operate and maintain it the way it is, with
So
some
maybe that's not enough?
trails and some parking. And I'm candid with you, the parking is going to limit the utilization of it.
Yeah.
You know, and we're not coming here with an amendment to our master plan as to what we're going to do, because we need public input, and we need to, what we're trying to do is respond as expeditiously as possible to people who are anxious to get the property back to at least where it was beforehand. And I think we can do that with your funding tonight.
Well, I'm going to jump in here. You got a $700,000 budget between your funds, and you're worried about $8,000. I don't want to be held hostage by the park board for $8,000.
Bob, we're not holding you hostage.
We are, because if we don't give you the $8,000, it appears this thing's dead in the water.
Well,
I mean, come on.
there's no fat in that budget.
I'll find, really? $700,000? I'll find $50,000 before 6:30. Let's go.
Can you say with confidence that Commissioner
I'm not
Cass...
averse to the funding, I'm sorry. I'm not averse to the funding, but I don't think they're connected. I don't think you have enough money to start the deferred maintenance right now and get this place cleaned up and get it operational. I don't think we're going to say no to the $8,000. I just don't understand all these stinking gyrations when they tried to give it away and the whole bit. I mean, I'm just...
Bob, it is probably directly related to the transfer of the title. We don't want to take title if we're not...
We already have title. The county owns it.
Park Board doesn't.
Okay, that's semantics to me.
Mike, do you have anything?
My question is, can we confirm that the commissioners have allocated $10,000 to the account? Was that a formal vote?
I don't see them now.
Vicki? The auditor, do you know?
They said it as a meeting.
Pardon?
They said it as...
They passed a motion.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got $25,000 right now.
So they've done that.
So, well, we're past that budget, you know, so just further discussion, I mean, we can...
We can make a motion I make a motion to add $8,000 into the 2021
I'll
buildings
second
and
it.
structures.
Okay, we're going back.
Now,
So, there's a motion and a second on the floor to, hold on, which budget were we?
what is
General
that?
fund?
General fund, 36,200.
Will the transfer, Dave, will the transfer be done by the end of the year?
My crystal ball isn't good. If I was a betting man, I'd say yes. Unless on Thursday I'm given 8 other things that have come up that are due diligence things.
So you've got a
All
motion.
that's been talked about to me is
Bob
the money.
seconded.
Yes.
All right, there's a motion and a second on the floor to add the $8,000, I think it's the building and structures, which increases the number. What's the new number there, Vicki? That's $547,875. Further discussion?
I would just point out that in the spirit of getting this done, we've owned the property for an extended period of time. We've allowed we've allowed it to come into disrepair. It's been usable up till a couple of months ago where it was deemed unsafe, so we closed it. And I think we're at a point where if it's county property, it's a county trail, we're going to maintain it one way or another and work out the issue with the Park Foundation. But we shouldn't have something like that, fall in disrepair like that, and we shouldn't have something like that that's not available to the public.
So a couple of things, I agree 100%. All I asked was to hold off on that. This means nothing tonight, this is second reading. So when we get to third reading, we get to the dance.
Maybe
So it really wouldn't have been delaying it.
Maybe we'll have answers
But that's
by then.
okay, but, we can always take it up again on third reading. I'm interested in what the parks plan for the project.
And that's not going to be decided by
That's not going to
third
be
reading.
decided by the third reading.
but I'm very interested to see, only because I've had folks reach out to me. I've read things, I've heard things, I've seen things at meetings that have left me with a little bit of question. Not necessarily concern, just a couple of questions, and so I'm curious as to what the end result is going to be, but it really doesn't make any difference if we do it tonight.
Yeah, well,
So that's-
and I, you know,
that's just- If you want to go back Thursday with a message that on second reading,
We passed.
we passed it, it's fine, doesn't hurt, I guess.
Further discussion, motion, second on the floor to increase it by $8,000. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Tourism.
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Don't leave, Dave.
Looks like they're down $1,875. Number's $2,044,814. Motion on the floor. Uh-oh. A motion to approve it.
Second.
Oh, there it is, a second. Motion a second.
I got a question.
Discussion.
Is your revenue going to be the same?
No, we can't fund this budget. We put the same budget in because that's what we were instructed to do. We would have submitted a budget significantly less. We've sent out an email to the venues that we can't fund it, but we're proposing it because that was what we were instructed.
So, along that vein, I guess, Mitch, my question would be, what do you think your budget will fund? Now, some of that is going back to Dave's comment, crystal ball, but I mean, because of the way your budget is funded.
We expect our next 2 months to be the worst because everything's on the downturn right now. She's provided you,
I didn't give them that part, but I just brought it for information.
Okay. She has brought some information to tell you the status of tourism right now. But our tourism is based on, tell me when I mess up. Our tourism is based on leisure travel, not business travel. Leisure travel ends on Labor Day or thereabouts. So while we had, once things opened back up a little bit, we had a little spike, but now we're going into a downturn. We don't expect much travel through the winter period. We don't know at this point. We have put off doing anything with our grants program until next calendar year.
So how have you funded this year? I guess, have you been tapping into the reserves that you had?
We're living off of the income that we're bringing in. And it's, I mean, we've cut significantly. We're basically doing guerrilla marketing. And we're doing everything we can. We're doing the critical things because at the end of the day, our industry has been annihilated. And we have got to get visitors and residents through the doors of our restaurants, our hotels, our attractions. We want our businesses to survive and get through this. And so, Dan, we're doing everything we can on the social media front. We have just a basic life support for our digital, just so that we have our name out there. Our activities guide, that's a critical marketing piece, our outdoor adventures. We did, and I gave you guys packets. I hope you guys really take a look at what we're doing. We did a hotel program on the toll road, took advantage of our contract out there, got this out there for free. We're doing whatever we can. I've surveyed the hoteliers. This is what our hoteliers are saying. We just hope we're making enough money to cover the bills. They're not even looking at profitability. There's a quote, I was just at a webinar where they're like, this could be the extinction of independent restaurants around the country. I mean, what our industry has faced, in April, our room revenue was down 67.3%. Because of the Indiana Dunes and the significance of the National and State Park, we're able to climb up to a revenue loss year-to-date from January of 27.5. But that's over. And what our hotels are concerned with is normally what we kind of limp along through in the winter season. So we're in our shoulder season. Now we're moving into the winter season. That corporate travel has been hit extremely hard. Group has been hit extremely hard. The leisure cannot completely overcome those two other segments. So, I mean, we have business travel from some hotels is down 10 to 30%, group travel down 5 to 20%, and so those are the things we're looking at. What we think about every day as our staff is what can we do to keep the visitors and residents, at least going into these businesses. So I surveyed the hotels, we called the hotels, what can we do to help you? We just launched the Bandwango. It's going to be a digital coupon program already. We've got 35 businesses signed up, and we're going to continue to encourage businesses to do that. So, until COVID is cured or it's gone, our industry doesn't know what the future is going to be, Dan. And so we're just prepared for the worst. We're living off of the checks as they come in.
So do you have anticipated revenue?
We don't. We don't know what the... So what we're doing is basically let's do the basics and then we've got the visitor center that we've opened up. We had $30,000 of expenses for COVID. We had to get a visitor center person just to do our we had 24,000 visitors. 22,000 visitors just in July alone. So to make sure our employees are safe, make sure the visitors are safe, making sure that, we're keeping everything sanitized. So there's just a lot going on. We're constantly talking to our industry in terms of what does it look like, but, places open, and then they start to close again because COVID starts to increase.
And I get that, Lorelei, I do. You guys are getting particularly hit here. But I want to have the conversation a little bit about the venues.
We don't have anything to vote on.
Because I did read the letter, and it did say, basically, we've been asked to give the same budget, but we don't think we can fund to the venues. The venues are here, so I guess I'd like to hear, not saying that that's not true, but then what will the result be to the venues? What do we need to be thinking about? Because you guys were historically using that money for marketing, and so what does that do to you? So when we're done with this budget, even if we pass it as it is, understanding that if their letter, remains true, and that next year is terrific this year, and you don't get your money, we need to be aware of what that does to you guys. And I assume that's why you're here. I assume you're here to hear this budget, so I'd like to hear from you guys.
It's in 30%.
Can I get my answer, please?
Sure.
Thanks.
You want?
Any of you. I'm just curious, because we need to be moving into your budgets with an understanding of what this does to you.
Sure. For our part at the Opera House, it will cause us to have to drive up ticket prices, tuition costs, things along those lines. So now we're looking at the possibility of not being quite as accessible to the career community, and surprisingly enough, that money does offset quite a bit of what our costs are for marketing, because again, since we're self-funded, everything's through ticket sales, and of course, we're in a similar position where we don't know what our anticipated revenue is, but we'll discuss that on Thursday. So it puts us in a really difficult spot not having that, because again, like I said, our youth program, all of that kind of teeters on a lot of this because of cost.
When did you typically get the money? When did you guys pay it?
They were giving it monthly.
Oh, so it's throughout the year, monthly?
Yeah.
So,
So I think a big part of it is we would just have to do social media cost us much. We have a current program that Kurt handles for us. There's nothing.
How about museum?
I think for the museum, it hurts in very similar ways. We do things very cheaply as it is. Capital formal budget through you or line items through commissioners. But a lot of what tourism has benefited us in the past is being able to develop our exhibits and to promote those things.
And Dan, one of the things we're hoping to do, and we've reached out to the venues because we have a good relationship with them, is, our staff is, we're doing the guerrilla marketing. We have a very smart staff that we would help them do the marketing. It would be through our budget, what budget we have. I think there's still a lot we can help them in terms of just, marketing them through our agency and through some of the contracts that we do have. But we have literally, we are representing an entire county in terms of the destination, and, we've cut back everything. We're doing the critical things to get business and visitors into the communities and spending money so that we can get back to a normal state. But, we're in a bad situation. No one would have ever, I've gone through crisis before, but no one has ever gone through a crisis such as this where you just have no idea when this is going to come out of it. And they're projecting years. It could be years for our industry to recover, fully recover.
On that note, what is your plan for next year, for the rest of this year, when the revenue just keeps going down?
We're gonna try to survive on the tax revenue that does come in, and eventually we'll have to use the funds that are available. One fund is for the maintenance of the building, though. I mean, we can't really tap that.
Do we know what the balances are in any of those accounts?
We don't, the numbers don't run through our office except for the revenue.
Okay, so how-
Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so we have a crisis stability fund of $500,000. Normally, you should have a year, so we have a little less than we have about 6 months. The concern that we have is if we start tapping any of the crisis stability fund, you have to, normally under a crisis plan, you have to pay that back. And we don't have the ability at this point to pay that back, so we're trying to live off of the revenues that we have. We have $120,000 for our long-term capital improvement, so anything that goes wrong with the building, getting a new roof, so you're talking, we've been in the building for 14 years, so we do have a contract with the National Park Service in terms of all the maintenance is on us in terms of what we're doing with the building. So that's long-term for the parking lots, any of the HVAC systems that go out and so forth. And then we have $100,000 for operating, just in case, like what ends up happening is we have higher expenses in the winter, and we don't have our revenue until the summer. So we have to always balance being able to pay our bills. And then the rest of it is $100,000 of grants that are spoken for. So these are grant monies that we were able to secure for projects that we're working on.
And those are the only funds?
That's it. And, you know, and the thing is, if those monies are gone, I don't get to there's no other place that I get to go and say, by the way, we're out of funds. It's up to us to manage the cash flow and, you know, and make this work and do the job that we're doing. And our staff has been, you know, I looked at the list that I put together that we've done since March once COVID hit, and our staff is working extremely hard, not only doing the regular stuff, but trying to make sure we can help the communities and so forth in what they're doing. So there's a lot on our plate. We take it very seriously. I wish we weren't in this situation, but to answer your question, Bob, we're trying to be as creative as we can to give business...
Have you laid off any staff?
We have not laid off any staff. We're a very slim staff to begin with, and I will tell you, our greatest asset is our staff, because if our staff's not doing it, then we're going to have vendors do it.
But what we did do is we canceled all of our contractual. So all of that is...
Yes, this budget's a fee-driven budget, frankly, guys. We could pass it the way it is. If the money doesn't come in, they can't spend it.
But you
It's not
have,
their spend.
you have contractual of $125,000.
That's what was there last year. We canceled it all.
It doesn't matter.
Because if they don't, it's one of those, it's a fee-driven, it's not general fund. If they get half of that in, they gotta make it work on half, or go to their reserve funds, or do something.
No, it's up to us to figure this
Yeah.
out.
More or less, in your expectation, you said something about 27%. I figure around $613,000 that was budget. Where would you find that money? I mean, is there
Well, we've canceled everything. We've canceled our grant program. We've canceled our contractual services. We've canceled, so really the budget isn't that much because we have cut everything to the bone.
And you have some reserves to keep going life support for a little bit longer.
For as long as...
I just want to be able to, and so I think we should probably just pass this as it's presented and move on. But I mean, on the back end of this, we have to have a conversation with the venues when they come up about what the plan will be to, what they're losing by, if that truly the fund isn't there, or the funds aren't there, what impact that will have on them, a little more in detail, and thank you for answering my question earlier. But then how we are going to address that. You know, how are we going to address their shortfall? Because we can't make tourism give money that's not there, right? I mean, in the years past, we've done that.
We've done it before.
It was there,
So it's
but it was there.
been there.
It was different when it was there. See, if we weren't having a COVID pandemic, this conversation would be,
Right.
we want you guys to put some money into these venues, we expect it to get funded because we're all in this thing together, and we like to think that venues have something to do with tourism, tourism has something to do with venues, and we're all partners in this thing. But if the money's not there, it's not there, and I think that we realistically need to anticipate how we will address the impact and what we need to do for the venues. until you guys get back.
And we're monitoring this at every board meeting. I mean, we're closely monitoring it, and if come next summer, things have turned around and we're back in a position, then we may be able to start, and we want to start, funding not only the venues, but our contractual, and get back to whatever normal is going to look like. Right now, we're not there. I mean,
Yeah, so as much as you guys have the obligation now and the challenge of keeping your program rolling through this, we have the same obligation for our venues, right? So we have to make sure that they're still rolling, that things are still happening there, and we have to anticipate any budgetary shortfalls. This appears to be another one. So unless things drastically turn around and we're all miraculously, immune from...
on November 4th.
Yeah. I like that the first Wednesday after the first Tuesday, COVID disappears, and I keep reading, then we can react.
You're finished?
I'm finished.
We have a motion on the floor, we done with that already?
No, there's no motion on the floor.
Question from my standpoint.
Yeah.
From a budgeting perspective, does it make sense to pass a budget, approve a budget that we know is inaccurate? And I'm wondering, from a budgeting perspective, would it be helpful for you folks to come up with, are we truly just going to say we're going to budget it like it's a regular year, knowing it's going to be less, and then we're going to start catching up with the deficiencies in the revenue?
I had that question for Dave.
I mean, wouldn't it be better to come up with some sort of anticipated revenue and then start...
I mean, that's how we normally operate. I mean, like Dan said, it doesn't matter what you pass, the reality, we have to live within the cash flow.
Well, I'm saying from your perspective, you're saying we're going to spend $300,000 in advertising.
We're not.
We're not going to.
Well, then and maybe you have a budget that reflects that.
No, because we were told to submit this
But
budget.
they're not quite sure how next year's going to be.
We have no idea, and I think...
This is different. Normally, I 100% agree with you. Why don't you come back with a budget that says you're going to shut the place down because you have no money? But I don't think that's what we really want.
Well, my suggestion is for them, and maybe they've done it internally, is to look at every line item and say, what is it that we are going to cut? Because you can't just say, here's the dollars that we're anticipating, and then spend as it goes. I mean...
So I gotta believe that they're doing it.
Yeah, we're totally doing it.
They're up against the ropes here. I gotta believe that they're looking for...
The first thing when this hit, Mike, the first thing you do is you know what your commitments are, your operational, right? You've got a visitor center, you've got a contract with the National Park Service, you got those things have to be covered. Then from there, it's like, okay, can we do some marketing? What does that look like? What's the percentage? It's still very difficult knowing that we're only 6 months into this, and we don't know what the back end is going to look like. Is the fall going to look like April? We don't know. Or is the fall going to look like a little bit more like the March? Those are some of the unknowns. I think if we can get through the next couple of months and see what that looks like, that's going to help us even better. What this just allows us to do is that we're not going to have to come back to you guys. We're like, well, we projected wrong,
Yeah, I kind of want the venues to stay in there, because if things turn...
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, we want that. I guess what I'm saying from my standpoint, if you look at salaries, $284,000 or $285,000.
Which I would note is less than some salaries we've heard of recently.
Okay, so $285,000. Are we looking at that critically enough to say that might be something we have to change? Up till now, we haven't laid anybody off, we haven't furloughed anybody, we're as tight as we can be. But I'll tell you, if the money doesn't come in, you're going to have to get tighter.
And that's exactly it. So like one of the things that we've just applied for is a grant to offset some of the operational expenses so that we can continue to keep the staff longer. Again, I think our greatest asset is the staff. So that would be the priority. But you're exactly right. I mean, we will make those decisions if, depending on what the income is. Right now, our job is to try to increase that innkeeper's tax, because then that means we're doing a good job and we're helping these businesses survive. So that's our biggest mindset right now.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. I think it was $2,044,814. Obviously, fee-based, they can only spend with what they have. We vote no, they can come back, and everybody starts traveling again, and they'll come back for a bunch of additionals, or we can prove it as it is. So, any further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right.
Thank you guys.
Congratulations, venues, you got money approved.
You got your line item. Soil and water. Number is the same.
Move to approve.
Second.
$125,219. Motion is second. Over here, soil and water. No? No.
Pardon?
So are we not doing them? We already did them the other day?
Yeah.
All right. I never took it out. I never added, never took them out. All right, skip. Recycling and waste district. What do we got? Difference of $48,500, is that right?
You're right.
$73,500 is the number, if I'm correct. No, sorry, I'm not. Sorry, difference of $11,875. The number's $1,503,679.
Motion.
Motion and a second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Special, what do we got? The capital, recycling and waste district capital, looks like, what do we got? An increase, $48,500, numbers, $73,500.
You buying land?
Our board is inquiring, looking into a potential of just inquiring, looking into an acquisition of a property.
That's good news.
Right? Correct.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion second, further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. West, you're good?
Thank you.
We got West Porter Township Fire District, increase of $5,000, $135,400.
Motion to approve.
Motion second, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Special West Porter Township Fire, increase $3,000, $82,900.
No way to shut up.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Health.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Yep.
We're gonna go back and tell them how hard we get the place.
Thank you, Dave.
Health. Fund 1159, looks like the number's the same, $2,057,295.
Second.
Heard a motion and a second, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Local health maintenance, number's the same, $92,710.
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
Second, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
So is there anything on your budget that we should be anticipating, any changes as we move through this COVID thing next year? Anything that you anticipate that you might need more or less or change?
Most of the things that if we're going to be needing, we're trying to find grants for that.
Okay.
And that's what we're doing, is reaching out and utilizing grants.
Fair enough.
Lenny, can you give us an update on where we're at with COVID testing sites in Porter County? And I know we've got the Portage
Yes.
that's
we have-
happening, but may or may not change. Just an update on that would be appreciated.
Well, we have the two test sites, one in Valpo, one in Portage. Valpo is going to be the expo center, and the Portage side, it's actually a location on Lute Road. It's related with
Porter
Porter Hospital.
So different from where it is today?
Yes, because of the fact that Optum, which is hired by ISDH, still has that location at the North Shore,
Yeah.
and they have continued the contract till the end of October, and ISDH is kind of pushing us to hurry up and get started, get those sites opened. So we had no choice but to look somewhere else, but at the same time, there's issues with the structure, so we found another location.
So the county takes over effective
We have it on October 12th
on October 12th, and so that'll be the new site in Portage on October the 12th.
in Valpo.
And up in,
Valpo and Expo
We're going to be at the Expo Center also.
also.
okay, help me understand
Sure.
the Valpo site.
Okay, the Valpo is going to be the Expo Center.
That's finalized, done deal,
We've been working with Lori on that, so, yes,
and that starts on,
the 12th, October 12th.
both sites will be operated by the county on the 12th.
Yes,
And up until the 12th, we'll have just the one site
The one that's
operated by
running right
Optum.
now by Optum and ISDH over in Portage.
Gotcha.
That's still in operation.
Thank you.
And you'll be on our agenda, I believe?
Yes.
right,
Yes.
For October?
Yes.
Deal with the funding of that?
Mhm.
Any other questions on those sites? We'll get into the tobacco fund. Looks like the number's the same, $69,410.
Motion
Move to approve. Second.
Motion, second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Adult probation supplemental and abuse.
Move to approve.
Number's the same at $100,105. Motion is second. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Bioterrorism response grant.
Move to approve.
Second.
The motion at $106,594.
Is that a new grant?
I'm sorry?
Motion second.
Is that a new grant?
Preparedness that we have for two people, right?
I'm sorry, I can't hear. What?
That's the emergency preparedness grant. It's coming from the state. They pay for the salaries.
Yeah.
And it is new, right?
Well, we've had it for about,
Okay.
this is the third year?
Yeah.
Well, there was nothing last year.
Yeah, there was,
Oh, I'm sorry, I see a zero. Am I missing something?
no, it should,
It was approved.
Because they always come in for an additional, right?
Oh, okay.
That's one of the grants
Okay.
that runs from July
mid-year.
to June 30th.
Okay. I'm done. Thank you.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Health grant. Where's the
Move to
number?
approve.
Number's the same. No, the number's $122,121. Motion,
Second.
second, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, all. Thank you for your work, folks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Council's the same,
Move to approve.
$216,839. Motion,
Second.
second, discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, Riverboat, $157,239.
Motion.
Second.
Motion second, discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. That. So, don't know if you guys, we talked about getting into raises this Thursday, so, I don't know if anybody needs any more information on that. So we have Thursday, animal shelter, commissioners, opera house, all the venues. We talked about maybe moving raises into that day, or getting into it anyways, because we have Monday the 12th, October 12th set for raises and wages. We've had a couple scenarios given to you guys. You guys got the one where it's kind of like a sliding scale. There was a number, Bob, I don't know how many different scenarios Vicki put together that everybody should have.
Yeah.
Early on, we also got just percentage raises. I believe that we passed out maybe in the first meeting that were just straight percentage. Now you have some sliding scale ones. There's 14 different options on there. So, if you guys want, prepared for Thursday, we can dive right into raises.
I suggest we talk about
We got to give money to venues and stuff?
Yeah.
How are we going to do that? We have no money.
Well,
I agree. We should,
All the other municipalities seem to be holding the line. Maybe we should follow that lead too and just...
Well, Vicki, how much have we increased the general fund?
A reduction of $148,000.
Right now, there's a reduction of $148,000.
Well, if we're on that note, I'd like to circle back before final reading to the election board budget. And I think we budgeted $500,000, is that, correct me if I'm wrong, for a year when there's no elections? What did we do the other night?
We cut like $100,000 out of it.
Yeah, but I think we need to go a little deeper. They don't have an election. I mean, we got to cover the salaries.
they have some referendums, don't they?
Yeah, but they get reimbursed for that.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, we got a $500,000 budget for no elections.
What else did we, wasn't there something else we were gonna circle back on?
I'm assuming that we could, shave something off there.
What, is that the election budget right there in front of us?
Is that what's in front of us, Vicki? I can't, yeah. And we're budgeting $500,000 for a department that has no elections.
We can definitely look at it in third reading and...
Maybe we could ask the clerk to come back and maybe help us a little bit here. This math doesn't work.
What I miss?
Vicki, are we missing something here?
We've gotten different.
He's trying to,
Yeah, but how did we get there?
Next year.
What are the rest of the line items? Okay, there we go. That's what I was looking for. I mean, we got overtime, we got hourly, we got, well, first of all, the election board members, they can take a pay cut. Absentee boards, why do we have absentee boards when there's no election? You know, we got $50,000 for polling place boards. How many referendums are coming, does anybody know?
2?
oh, I thought they said,
Let's say 2 for sure and maybe a third.
But I guess my rhetorical question to her, and that's why we need to have her come back, I'm just going to use an example for Portage. Portage has a referendum. How many polling places are in Portage? Right now, Dan, that's your area.
City of Portage or
Yeah.
Portage Schools?
Well, no.
Portage Schools would be the one with the referendum.
Right, Portage Schools.
South Haven.
Right, how many polling places are we talking about? 20? I'm just making that, whatever the number is.
More.
Huh?
Probably closer to 30.
Okay, so I'm assuming that we're not going to pay, or they don't want to pay to have 30 polling places for referendum.
Did she say who might have the referendum?
No, she didn't.
No, so they have to come back and explain all that, makes sense.
Yeah, but I mean, let's use Portage, could they live with 5 polling places, which lowers all these costs dramatically? That's all I'm saying.
I don't, now you were looking at consolidate, I don't know, consolidate
I don't
polling place
think
for
we have,
referendum?
yeah, I don't think we have the right to consolidate
No.
polling places. I think
No.
that requires action of
The
the
election
election
board.
board.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm telling you. I mean, when was the last non-election year? 17? I mean, can we look at that budget of expenditures out of, well, it was different then, right? We had
So whatever we do,
registration.
whatever we do, it was different. Whatever we do, we have to understand that we don't want to budget against, if we're going to drop this budget, like we said when it came up on second reading,
Right.
we're going to drop this budget, we don't want to budget against that reduction because we're going to need the money the next election cycle.
Oh, I'm not saying, oh, yeah, absolutely, but I mean, for this 1 year, there's no election, that's all. I mean, we're budgeting like there's going to be an election, the way it looks to me.
I know we talked about it a little bit, Bobby, I mean, really, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I mean, they shouldn't be spending it if there's no reason to spend it, and it reverts back to the general fund at the end of the year.
But there's no counts against us for this year.
So Vicki, in your auditor mind, what do you think would be easier or better, or what has less impact on us? What do we do? Do we take it way down, and
we need the money.
or do we leave it?
Way down at this time next year, you'll have to bring it back up.
Mm-hmm.
Because there will be an election in 2022.
We just
Right.
can't think of the big number, oh crap, we got another $200,000 and budget against it, as Dan said. We just have to understand that that's just protecting the money temporarily for a year. So, we can definitely have her, I'll tell her to be here, we can have that discussion.
I'm not saying take it down drastically, but there has to be some savings in here by not having an election.
Yeah, and in all fairness to the clerk, have her come here and explain the budget, and the budget should reflect the actual anticipated cost for elections. And so she can come and present that information to us, and it should be relatively easy to understand. And then the budget should reflect it. Then the following year, when there is an election, then we all certainly understand that it's going to be, it's going to be up. But it should reflect the actual number for next, anticipated expense for next year.
And the problem with the elections is we've gone through, we have countywide elections, and we have city and town elections, and then we have no elections, and it's all these different sort of budget numbers that we're playing around with year to year. We have to be careful, not to budget against the savings in 1 year, but on the other hand, we don't want to have the cities and towns election costing us or thinking it's going to be like a countywide election, so we just have to take it year to year. Understanding looking at the long-term outlook.
Right, and so, and I don't know, and I'm not sure if this is how this thought all got started for tonight, but we can't say we're gonna save a couple $100,000 from the clerk's budget, and therefore have that money available for raises. Right? I mean...
No, absolutely not. So, yeah, it's just moving the money out because,
We need
yeah.
to get all the budgets out of the way before we start talking about it.
Well, we'll have them all out of the way Thursday, second reading anyways. I mean, it's just a conversation. I mean, right now she says we've cut $148,000 out of it. She said we could increase the general fund by $1 million. You guys have a number of different scenarios for raises. I mean, we can get into it Thursday, or we could wait to the special meeting, not the special meeting, just the, I mean, Greg, to your point, I mean, yeah, so they're missing $150,000. Basically, they're not gonna probably get next year, the venues.
Right.
Are they gonna be open next year? Do we need to find $150,000? It's a great question. Do we
They're
have
not
to
getting it
wait
this year.
for that reason?
So here's what I told them, that's why I went outside. I told the three directors of the venues, come back to us Thursday with a little more detailed explanation as to what the impact will be from the, you know, if tourism doesn't pay them, and what they think what kind of detrimental impact will that have on them, and we can at least hear what that, maybe it's that they do less marketing, maybe they think, next year's going to be a little strange anyway for venues, maybe we can do okay without the marketing. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I said come with a little more detail and a little more explanation as to what they think they might need if we choose to supplant that loss.
Because they got cut this year, right? They didn't get the money this year.
Right.
Let alone next year.
Right. So that's what they're going to do.
They're going to be hurting.
And I think, to Greg's point also, with the uncertainty of what to expect next year, that would give us reason to consider that if there's ever a year to consider holding the line on raises until we weather the storm, to find out what revenue we will anticipate. We heard the effect that of the tourism budget. Now, of course, that doesn't affect us. It's all fee-based. However, there's other things that could come into play where our revenue may not be what we expect it to be next year, depending on how the pandemic and the effect of the pandemic continues. And furthermore, as we talk about wages, and I'll just reiterate my point from last meeting, talking about the need to do a comprehensive salary study to make sure that we know what the different classifications should be, as it's based on roles and responsibilities and duties, come up with a range that will work so that we're not arbitrarily going through year after year, 2%, 3%, 6%, $500, $750, and making those determinations. Because anything that we do for next year, and we know that the impact of this might be felt even more in subsequent years, anything we do or commit to next year is going to be something that we're going to have to deal with the following years as well. And so I would suggest to hold the line on wages for 2021, use that time to do a comprehensive study, an analysis of what our pay should be, to find out if there's people that are woefully overpaid, which I don't think that's at all the case. We know there's some people that are woefully underpaid, and try to, once and for all, take a close look at it so we can do what's right for the employees, so we don't year after year after year continue to go through this process.
And I don't disagree with that, Mike. I don't. But I guess just playing the devil's advocate, the other side of that coin is, if in fact we do have sufficient revenue to give a cost of living increase, for us not to, our employees, albeit we haven't done layoffs and we did COVID pay, we did all those sorts of things, undoubtedly they have had households that have probably had some impact from COVID. This has probably been a difficult year for some. I know some of our employees' spouses were laid off. So they're coming through, they're trying to struggle with their families through a difficult time, sort of epic, difficult time. And if we have the ability to give a cost of living increase and we don't, that's almost like, salt on a wound.
Yeah,
That would be the other side of that. So I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying it's something to think about.
And if we had more confidence in terms of what that revenue would be for next year, then I could say it would be problematic not to give them some sort of cost of living increase. But I think the uncertainty of next year is enough reason to give us pause.
It's not next year. I don't think the uncertainty is next year. I think you're probably talking more further out. I mean,
if you think there's not uncertainty for next year, I don't think that's accurate. The uncertainty for the following years is even greater, but I don't think anyone here can say exactly what's going to happen in 2021.
Well, we've been told that we can increase our budget by $1 million or general fund, and that's coming from the state's numbers. So I'm going to say there is some certainty to that, and I got to agree with Dan that, you're saying that we're going to find out people are probably underpaid, but you're going to go a year without paying them, they're going to fall even further behind. I can't see going a year without giving raises. We do have, in my opinion, we have the ability, but there's 7 of us, and we'll take a vote at some point in time in the next couple of weeks. We just got to figure out what that is. But, I definitely would think that we got to at least give them cost of raises. And, to hold off until we do a comprehensive study on salaries.
First of all, that'll take a year.
That's probably not going to happen.
No.
But maybe it does, but I'm not going to wait for it.
I got one quick.
Yeah.
Vicki, how much of our revenue is property tax based percentage-wise? Just ballpark.
Significant.
You're talking about just the general.
Yeah.
That's not a question I answer.
Just ballpark. And Vicki, 3/4 of our budget comes from property taxes. I don't care about minutia. Just, I want to have a 30,000-foot view.
The raises on Thursday then, is that our thought?
Well, I don't know.
Well, no, I want to make a point here. Hang on. Vicki, is it safe to say 75% of our revenue comes from property taxes?
I say, yeah.
Okay. So based on Mike's concern, a whole bunch of people got to lose their house, and that ain't going to happen.
Housing market seems to be on fire right now.
That's my point. I mean, I agree with everybody. I think 22 is going to be the problem here. We're 21 right now. How much, Vicki? How much is escrow? 40%? 37% I thought was the last number is escrow.
Yeah, we have a higher escrow amount than many others.
So unless a whole bunch of people lose their house, they're going to pay the property tax, and we're going to be okay for next year.
All I know, which I appreciate what you're saying, all I know is that as we were looking at tax collections for this year, we were concerned in terms of how many people would pay, how many people would pay late, and then when it was 92% or something that paid, whew, that was a relief.
Yeah, but
next year, with all the people that we talked about that have been laid off and who have been downtrodden, and they may or may not be in a position to pay their property taxes.
I don't know if that was the royal we, but just refresh your memory. I wasn't that concerned. Because when we had
you had the crystal ball.
I did, but I had the ability to know and represent a lot of folks that come through and live in this county, and I knew that a lot of them have their property taxes escrowed, and that a lot of the folks that don't have their property taxes escrowed are on fixed income such as Social Security or retirement. So I had a pretty comfortable feeling we'd be okay, and that's what I said. And it wasn't a crystal ball, but then we had a discussion about how much is escrowed, and I said, guys, we don't need to panic about that right now.
There was a moment of uncertainty, I think, for everybody when this thing first started, and we didn't overreact. And that's the thing, I still don't think.
Unless I wrote the royal, if that was the royal we, I apologize.
So we'll have to make a decision.
I'm saying there should be a reason for caution and concern for upcoming budgets.
And I'd like to add that like the Opera House and the other venues, we should make sure that they're funded so that more of the public, I would be more concerned that the public has more opportunities to go places and do things than a small amount of people getting a tiny little raise.
Our employees won't be able to unless we give them a raise to visit the office.
Oh, no.
Think about that, I mean,
Let me add a nugget. Let me add a nugget to the discussion. As we talk about raises, because we do this each and every year, although we haven't done a study, and I'm convinced that we can at some point do that study to find out, what is right.
I
Do we not make that
tried to have that years ago.
Well, I would say the study, a comprehensive study would be important.
Yeah.
I mean, and
It would be.
I think we should get a study on whether or not it's a good idea to get a comprehensive.
Here, I'll give you even a more basic question than that. Have any of us, have we approached and talked to the HR director to ask what her input might be on wages and salaries? And if we haven't done that, it would be another reason why we should challenge and question whether
a few years back, and
Pardon me?
I think that was approached a few years back, and it just didn't.
It didn't really take off.
No.
But it seems odd to me, that the human resources director is not at all involved with a potential wage or salary increase. That seems odd.
Well, I mean, if she wanted to be involved, I guess she could run for the county council.
Whoa, hang on, we got enough people in that place.
I'm,
The only thing I want to add to everybody's comment, we have employees that qualify for food stamps.
We can ask the employees.
And I'll say, the reason that is because we've handled this salary and wages issue the same year after year after year after year. That's why we're in that position.
And we've been getting raises year after year after year after year. And we want to stop when you're saying that.
No, I'm saying make it right. We've been getting raises, but Bob's saying people on food stamps.
Make it right. Well, then that goes to Bob's proposal of a sliding scale of trying to give like a 6% raise to the bottom,
Which is just an arbitrary number that we think maybe sounds right or gives us the feeling.
Well, listen, so here's what we know. We know that we are not the department head that manages those employees on a day-to-day basis, right?
There you go.
I don't know over at the recorder's office who's doing a bang-up job, who's not doing a bang-up job, or if they're all doing a bang-up job for that matter, right? So we leave it to the recorder. We leave it to the treasurer. We leave it to these folks to kind of come, and we have to hope that if they have employees that aren't stepping up to the base, that they're doing the kinds of things as managers to try to get them going, or other alternatives. So we, as a county council, absent all of that particular knowledge, I take the position that we need to at least keep up with the cost of living increase, understanding your concerns for this next year, Mike. I don't disagree that we have to be cautious for the next year, or years, for that matter.
Right.
But, so I'm not disputing that. I'm just saying that from an employee standpoint, I like to see us keep up with at least a cost of living increase. I think that it's not my job to go in there and decide which employees, they have the same title, but this one has a bigger job, just by virtue of the way the office runs. It's not my job to do that. See, it's my job as a fiscal board member to make sure that we manage the money correctly, and I think from payroll for our employees, making sure that they're trying to make sure that they keep up with the cost of living increases, because we don't want our employees to fall behind, right? We don't want that. We have a little bit of a concern for our employees.
Mm-hmm.
And
just like any board of directors would have.
And I'll just throw this out there. I looked at the thing that Vicki threw together, and I really like 6. If you guys look at it at some point in time over the next couple of days, that would give 80, and my math, this was quick math over the weekend, 87.6% of our employees would get a 3.5% raise. But what it does is anybody under 35,000 would get a 6% raise. Everybody between 35 and 65 get a 3.5% raise, and then anybody at 65 and plus only gets a 1%. You're bumping up that bottom. I mean, and the total cost is under $800,000.
And you're talking about doing away with longevity?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So, you guys all have it, I don't mean to, you guys all have it, the original one that Vicki did at the beginning that was passed out, and the one, this one. Everybody's got that, right?
I think that when we talk about whether we're going to do raises or not, I think everything that has been said tonight needs to be in the consideration. I think everybody has made a very valid point, actually. Matter of fact, nobody's wrong in their concerns. And I just think what we do with those concerns is what we have to decide as a board. But I think everybody's spot on, the things that we're concerned about, the things that we'd like to see. So let's put all of the conversation on the table. If we do it Thursday, great. If we do it some other night, you all have nothing to do with yourselves, you want to come back down here, then we could do that as well. I'd love to see you guys.
And we've talked about it significantly, as we should. My suggestion would be let's do it on Thursday.
And that we do a study.
Well, that's, hopefully that'll be in the future, but,
We'll have the commissioners here Thursday, right?
Yeah, commissioners are here.
They're the ones that have to institute this.
I would think we could work collaboratively with them and convince them that that's an appropriate thing to do, and I don't think there'd be any disagreement.
Yeah. But you realize that will take a year, and that will cost a whole bunch of money.
We could do that over the course of the year.
What'd you say, Dan? I'm sorry.
You're talking about the study?
Yeah.
Oh.
I think if we could find some data and add some objectivity to what we're talking about with raises and so forth, that makes a heck of a lot of sense.
Again, I think we should ask the employees to do the study. Ask them if they're underpaid.
Joy, I'll make a motion to adjourn, okay? We've had enough fun for tonight.
Okay, real quick, Joy, we believe what, the Indiana Association of Counties, can you call down there tomorrow and ask if there's any study across the state, any kind of information across the state?
Tippecanoe County, we always...
No, not asking to compare, just see if there's any information that the Indiana Association of Counties
Sure,
has.
there's a huge database of it. That's what I'm, that's part of what I'm suggesting, is we look at it.
We have a membership, let's see if they've got something, you know?
So when we get into comparing ourselves to other counties, we have to understand that we're not always comparing apples to apples, right?
No.
There are different things that go on in other counties that don't happen here, and things that happen here that don't happen in other counties. They have different tax rates, they have different income tax rates, they have different property tax income. There's a lot, so we just have to be aware of that. Over the years, I've heard straight up comparison to
Tippecanoe?
Tippecanoe County,
Everybody
I've heard that, or St. Joe, or LaPorte County, I hear that all the time.
And the advantage of a formalized study is to have 20 or 30 different municipalities blended into this amount.
Every time
Mike says-
Justin says study, we all got to take a shot.
I'm gonna keep saying it so you listen to me.
And Vicki, did you have something to add?
To answer your question, the AFC annually publishes a book, and there's the latest copy is in the council's office, and it is self-reported of all of the salaries, so the auditors in each county are supposed to present this information to them. I will tell you that many counties do not participate in it. It's a very
right.
expensive survey. I can tell you that thanks to our wonderful staff here, our numbers are accurate. So when you look at the Porter County.
Always a good thing.
Our numbers are accurate that we give. But, so do take a look at that back book. It gives you all of the listing of the salaries.
It's been done, Mike, we just need you to go through it and tell us what.
Yep, make it a point.
Yeah, it's gonna take some time and effort.
What do you need, an extra $100 or something?
I'll donate to that fund.
Motion on the floor to adjourn,
Motion adjourned.
second.
They're
All
all
in favor,
leaving.
signify by saying aye.
The sign,
Aye.
the sign.
Opposed? Aye.
Which one do you, I had to bring, what